had, maybe not exactly, because those characters who came to Parliament were not coming for fun. Many of you members were there. They were not coming for fun. They were coming to burn down Parliament and kill people, basically. They were not coming to demonstrate and ask for the finance bill not to be passed. They were coming to cause grave harm. In fact, 2 days after that event, after we frustrated the effort to burn down Parliament and kill members, we arrested a suspect at 4 a.m. outside Parliament carrying fuel, intending to go and raise down the premises of Parliament. So the action we took on that day, therefore, and I'm not preempting the investigations, some lives were lost in the process. But I wanted, again, to be fair to our democracy, to compare that with what happened in the US on January 6, 2020, the attack on Capitol Hill, which was actually an attack on American democracy, forced the Senate of the US to make certain decisions and use violence, including harming people, to make a political statement. Lives were lost in that country, but they have never discussed that matter. No media, no person has discussed the lives that were lost on Capitol Hill to protect the American democracy. So that contextualization is extremely important. And Chair, I will not pretend, as the country's security minister, I hold the very strong view that for this country to remain sustainable and for our democracy to function, we must, within the Constitution, make sure that the institutions established under our Constitution are protected, because if we overthrow constitutional institutions like Parliament, judiciary, the executive, we have no country. The things we are discussing here, we will not have even this discussion where a parliamentary committee is grilling the security minister, because the country will not be there in the first place. So that is the first contextual matter I wanted to bring. And it is not true to argue or to submit that the police officer cannot use force. If we never applied force on that fateful day in Parliament, we would be talking about a different Kenya, a different scenario. The second and last issue, Honorable Chair, through you, is on the fact that somebody has been shot is not conclusive evidence that they have been shot by a police officer. It's not conclusive. Maybe there's a presumption that that bullet is the bullet of a police officer, but as a person who has practiced law for a quarter of a century, I can say this without fear of contradiction. The fact that somebody has died through a bullet where police officers were trying to control a crowd is not conclusive proof that that person has been killed by a police officer. And that's why the justice systems must help us establish the truth without shielding anybody. If a police officer went outside the law, they must be held accountable. To demonstrate my point, Rongai. In Rongai, we lost, to my mind, I think 2 people. And others were injured. What happened is that criminals invaded somebody's supermarket and started hurting people, and some were stabbed, workers, shoppers, etc. 2 police officers were guarding Equity Bank next to the supermarket. And they were armed. And the law allows a police officer to enforce the law not necessarily where you are on duty that day, but if you realize there is breakdown of law and order, it is the duty of the police to protect the public. So these two officers tried to contain that invasion of that supermarket and the injury that was being visited on shoppers and so forth. They were only two, but the crowd was massive. What happened is the criminals actually overpowered them. They took the gun, and one of them, they took the two guns, and one of the person who overpowered them actually started shooting at the crowd. So in the process, I would assume, of an investigation, it is possible that perhaps these officers, as they tried to contain this situation, could have shot somebody. That is one hypothesis. But the other hypothesis is that the criminal who overpowered these officers actually and removed their uniform and started shooting at the crowd could have used a police gun, but is a criminal to kill someone. And of course, these are things that require scientific proof. So the presumption could be it is the police officer, but it could be rebuttable by evidence. And that's why we need to be careful and not condemn law enforcement officers wholesale, but we must condemn individual law enforcement officers who use weapons outside the law. And the only sure way of ascertaining that is through the processes of justice, which are slow and painful, but eventually they lead us to the truth.
You're done, Waziri?
Yes, Chair, I submit.
Yeah.
And in some of the riots, there were private people with firearms. In some cases where we had huge crowds, there were people with firearms inside crowds. So I'm not just defending my officers. I'm also saying they need to be given the benefit of doubt, and otherwise we will lose the morale of our security agencies. And next time there's an attack, they'll say, okay, there's an attack, Parliament, sort out yourselves. God forbid. I submit.
Members were aware that, of course, we have got quite a number of the rest of the 6 of the question. I think we can leave at that, and I think the minister has taken undertaking to furnish this committee with the total number of Kenyans who were added to the list of 30. So you had asked for 24 hours?
Reply by tomorrow such a time, by tomorrow noon.
Thank you so much. Of course, the document will also be the document of the House, and it will be tabled in Parliament. Thank you so much, our brother Window, and a lot of regards from the member who did ask the question, actually, Ocheng. He said he was your student at some time, confided to me.
I hope I did a good job.
Yeah, seemingly yes. Yeah, actually dropped a lot of accolade. Now, kindly go to the second question. We have got hardly 1 hour to tackle the rest of the 6.
Honorable Chair and honorable members, thank you. The second matter, as guided by the Chair, is the question on insecurity in Fafi constituency. And here I've been asked by the member for Fafi, the Honorable Yakub, to explain reasons why the government is downgrading security levels by discharging 16 National Police Reservists in Fafi, in Bura East sub-county, who are discharged on 6th August 2024. The second issue is that why 17 NPRs who are volunteered to support our security agencies who are dealing with counter-terrorism there have not been armed, yet they are ready to support the security formations there. Then what actions we are taking to enhance security in the constituency, and then also, finally, whether we have a record of abductions by Al-Shabaab or even by security agencies. I would like to respond as follows, that the issue of National Police Reservists is guided by the National Police Service Act, and it provides that the role of NPRs is to support the National Police Service as a reserve, and they can be assigned to support Kenya Police or Administration Police in all the areas that the police have mandate on, and this is preservation of peace, protection of life and property, prevention and detection of crime, apprehension of offenders, and enforcement of laws and regulations of our land. Now, the functions or the work of the National Police Reserve is to support the police, the full-time police deployment. But the Act also provides that NPRs must remain under the command and control of the police formation commanders. And this command has been delegated by the Inspector General of Police to the Sub-County Police Commander, formerly known as OCPDs. They are the commanders of all the police in that sub-county, including NPRs. The Act also subjects NPRs to discipline, just like other police officers. And therefore, issues of command and control and discipline are of the NPRs is still with the Inspector General of Police, delegated to the sub-county police commanders. So the particular number of officers, NPR officers who were discharged, as the member correctly has pointed out, were discharged in exercise of the command, control, and discipline procedures of the National Police Service vested on the Inspector General. And they were replaced. In that sense, it takes me to the second part of the question. The second part of the question is saying there is already another 17 who wants to be NPRs. And why have they not been armed? And I want to respond as follows. It is not enough to volunteer that you want to be an NPR. That's not the end, it's the starting point, because the NPRs actually are voluntary support formation for the police. We just once in a while give them a small stipend, and we are trying to see how we make that a bit more determinate. But once there is need for NPRs, as is the case here in Fafi, there is a process of vetting. After vetting, training. After training, the arming, that is equipment, and then now they are deployed. So that process is ongoing. We have not refused to deploy, but we will need first to complete the vetting, do the training, which takes sometimes 4 or 5 weeks, and then after that they are armed and then deployed. So we will be doing that shortly. And then thirdly, the member wanted to find out what we are doing in Fafi to strengthen the security there. And I want to accept that Ijara Fafi has really given us a lot of challenges in the last almost 1 year, maybe more. The last 3 years. We've had challenges, security challenges there, and our formations in the northeastern region are adjusting to make sure that we detect where the leakages are and where the gaps are. You know, we have a porous border. Up Mandera, we are trying our best to minimize incursions and cross-border threats. But down on the Garissa side, we have a challenge there. And right now, those two areas, not Liboi, Ijara, Fafi area, is problematic. So what we are doing, Chair, is we are increasing the presence of special forces, what we call formed up units, mainly the RDU, the Rapid Response Deployment Unit, the SOG, the Special Operations Group, and other elite special forces that help us to keep the country free from the threat of terror. We have challenges, and that's why as Security Committee we continually request you to support us with a security budget, because unlike normal or ordinary policing, the fight against terrorism and other organized crime like banditry requires very highly trained and highly equipped intelligence-based security deployments, quite expensive. And to train these special forces requires a lot of resources. And I'm glad we are making good progress. And I think even today we'll be receiving a little more from in the SOG, which is the most sophisticated and the most effective fighting force this country has, of very patriotic and sacrificial police officers who have given their all to protect us. So we intend, we have a small graduation, and members may want to know that we recruit about 2,000, but those who finish are 100. From 2,000, those who will finish the 6 months specialized training are 100 or thereabout. It's very rigorous. But then what that 100 does is equal to what 10,000 would do in ordinary circumstances. So Fafi, Ijara, I admit, we need to add a few more elite intelligence-led units which can help us address the current situation there. We have registered a lot of progress in Boni Enclave for the last 18 months. And we hope eventually, even against the fight against banditry, where we are 75, 80% done, we are left with 20%. The solution will be in the special forces that will help us get these criminals who have hurt the people of Kenya for a long time. So we are working on that. And of course, we want to involve the communities. That is the last part of the answer. We want to work now with communities to build support for the fight against terror, so that it's not just security-led, government-led. We want to involve communities. NPRs is one entry point, but we want also